Hi everybody, what's up? It's me Juan from Just One Reader here to quickly do my February wrap up and my March TBR. So February was a very productive reading year, not as much as January, but in January I just had a very unrealistic month. I read a lot. I finished a lot of books that I had started in 2017, so that was a very good month. But regardless of that, February has also been great, and the month is not over yet, but I don't think I'm going to finish any more of the books that I'm currently reading until March. So I thought it was just a good time to tell you what I did manage to read and finish in February. So the first book that I finished in February was Full Dark No Stars. This is a collection of short stories by Stephen King. I thought it was very good, actually one of my favorite collections of his, one of my favorite books that I've read by him. I think I give this 4 stars, very enjoyable. The next book that I completed was Civil Warland in Bad Decline. This is another short story collection by George Saunders. I'm sorry, it's a collection that includes short stories and also a very long novella. I really loved this. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It was very good. And the first story in this collection, which is actually the title story, Civil Warland in Bad Decline, is one of my favorite short stories that I've read of all time. That short story alone is incredible. So yeah, really love this. Then the next book that I read was my favorite book of the year so far, and that was The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is a book that I kind of already had read in Spanish, in a Spanish translation a couple of years back, and I remember that I enjoyed it, but it was nothing stellar, nothing spectacular. But now that I read it in the original English, it was like reading it for the first time. I was surprised to see how much I didn't really remember and how much I hadn't gotten the first time around. And this time it blew me away. It's my favorite book of the year, one of my new favorite books of all time. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It really impressed me what she was able to do with language and how she got to me and how she put me under a spell. Really amazing book. Then the next book that I read was The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. This is literary fiction, and it follows these 2 girls that are growing up in Britain, and they are growing up in the 70s, and we follow their lives as they try to find God, and we also follow the inhabitants of this town, of this street, really, and it takes place in the suburbs, and it has a very suburban feel to it. It's kind of quirky and charming. It's not really one of those books that will impress you. It didn't impress me, but it was satisfying enough, and I gave it 3 stars. And finally, the last book that I actually completed in February was 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This was, I think it's safe to say that this is the most intimidating book that I had in my TBR, because it's not really that long or that complicated or that classic or that hyped, which would normally make a book very intimidating for me. But the way that this book was intimidating was just very special. It was one of a kind. This book was so incredibly intimidating for me, particularly because of everything, all the reputation that it came with. This is a book that you have to read if you are Latin American, or if you are if this is part of your cultural legacy. You are expected to know this book and love this book, and so I was very hesitant, but I actually really enjoyed it. I absolutely understand now the hype and the popularity that it has, and all the importance that this book actually has. It was very enjoyable. It was not like one of my favorite books of all time, but I gave it 4 stars, and I am so proud of myself for succeeding and surviving reading this book. And also it's a book that I keep coming back to. I keep thinking about it, so I think I might be able to read this book at some other point in my life and just yeah, probably read it multiple times and just keep re-experiencing it. Now moving on to my March TBR. Firstly, I would like to finish these two novels that I am currently reading right now, and I am in the middle of both of them. This one is The Dragonfly Pool by Eva Ibbotson. This is sort of classical young adult fiction. It is so good. I cannot wait to finish this and review it for you guys because this is a book that I am loving to death and I need to properly review it and recommend it to you. And the other one is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I picked it up on a whim because I was just feeling like reading classics this year, and I figured, well, I've never read Jane Austen before. Pride and Prejudice is a story that I kind of have some knowledge about. I kind of remember watching a movie at some point in my life, so I decided to go with this one, and I'm actually really enjoying it. It sometimes feels complicated in terms of language and the way that it's written, and it's kind of confusing, but when she uses dialogue, a lot of dialogue, and we follow the conversations that these characters have, I am enjoying it so much. It's so funny and so witty and so fast-paced and charming. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. I am also currently reading this short story collection by Karen Russell. It is St. Lucy's Home for Girls Raised by Wolves. And I have only read like 3 stories so far, and I am really enjoying them, but I feel like this is a short story collection that I will want to read over a long period of time. I don't think these stories are very good to read immediately one after the other. I think you really have to spread them out. So I will probably be reading this in February and in March, and maybe even up until April. And I have no idea when I'm gonna finish this, but I don't care. I'm really enjoying it, so that's what matters. Next up, I have The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. So I kind of have a weird relationship with The Lord of the Rings. I remember watching the films as they came out when I was growing up. Ay, pinche perro, deja de ladrar. Qué horror. Qué desesperación. Sorry, those dogs are driving me insane. So anyway, I remember loving those movies. They are some of my favorite movies of all time. And then later on, I decided to read the books, and I did actually read them. I just don't really remember that experience at all. I must have been very young. I must have been 12 when I read them, and I read them very quickly, and I was kind of frustrated by the writing and the description and everything. And I just remember being a little bit frustrated by that, but I feel like I need to go back to the series and read them in these beautiful editions, these beautiful, beautiful hardbacks that I love. So I will be trying to read this, at least the first book, The Fellowship of the Ring, in March. Then I will follow that with Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Like I said, 2018 is my year of finally reading classics. Esos perros. Putos perros. I hate it when I am doing something that requires absolute silence and the dogs start barking. They never bark. Why are they barking? Anyway, this is my year of finally reading classics. I am really getting into that kind of mindset, and so this gorgeous, gorgeous edition of Jane Eyre is the perfect excuse to finally read this. This is one of the most popular and best loved classics. Then I have another kind of modern classic, which is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I don't even really know what this is about or why it's supposed to be as important and as big as it is, but I'm just gonna go in completely blind and hopefully enjoy it. Then I have a very different type of classic, which is children's literary classic. This is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster with illustrations by Jules Pfeiffer. And yeah, I just picked this up again on a whim. Beautiful illustrations. I have no idea what it's about. I never read this as a child. I have absolutely no clue and no idea whatsoever as to what this is about. But there you go. That's the way to go with classics, right? Then I have A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, something a little bit more modern and contemporary. This is a book that everybody that I love and that I follow and trust on BookTube has loved. They have sung its praises so much and so highly that I just need to know what it's about. And finally, another more contemporary, modern novel, which is, I think it's young adult, I'm not sure, is The First 15 Lives of Harry August. This is by Claire North. I think it is young adult. I'm not sure, but I've been hearing that it's very entertaining and it's actually quite good for young adult fiction. So here's hoping. So guys, tell me in the comments down below, what did you read in February? What was your best book of the month? And what are you looking forward to reading in March? Thank you very much for watching. I am Just One Reader.